Oh man, well, this is the eighth Webcam Weekly Wrap-Up. I am already laughing with technical difficulties. So, right before this went live, I was going to my fridge to get a 5-hour energy. We can't show that to get one of these for the show. And I was turning to look at my ring light over here, and now it was shining. And I managed to shut my finger in the Nice. You can see it. I shut my finger in the fridge door. That's how we start this show, is just me crippling myself. Well, it can only be uphill from here, right? Well, this show here is based around the Initial Impressions 2.0 blog. My random, funny, very rarely, but sometimes poignant things that happen during my week. And we talk about them here. I try to wax poetically about life, and I try to predict that I will finish this in under 20 minutes, and I don't, because there's too many funny stories. That's the problem. So let's start right in. This week, daylight savings time started up. I was doing content work on that day, and it got to be about 3:30, and I was looking outside, and I said, "Oh man, the sun sets at like 4:30. I've got to get outside and enjoy some sun." But sunset at 4:30. The temperature that day was in the low 40s. It's like a highway to depression for the winter. Just imagine, the sun isn't going to set after 5 o'clock again until February 4th. 4 months away. Oh man, it's like, what can you do? Have artificial light like this try to give you that vitamin D? It's not working. Whatever happened to Quiznos? There's just a sentence. I saw a video about the rise and fall of them, and 15 years ago, they were everywhere. There were locations, two of them on Cape Cod, Hyannis and Falmouth, I believe. I used to go to the Falmouth one all the time. Their Baja chicken and the prime rib cheesesteak, those were legendary. They weren't great for you calorie wise. I mean, I was in pretty bad shape in 2009, 2010, but it was like in a flash, they were gone. And I know that there's a story behind them expanding too much, and they kind of screwed over a lot of their franchisees with some things. I've watched a few videos, and it's like, as much as I love the product, it seems like the ownership was the problem. In fact, so I had looked it up. This was 5 years ago this month. I did this amazing road trip, 2,100 miles around the eastern US over 6 days. I mean, it was a lot of driving. Anyway, on my way back up north, my southernmost point was Cape Hatteras Lighthouse in North Carolina. And I came all the way back up, and I made it a point to stop at the Quiznos closest to where I live. That was in Orange, Connecticut. And I looked it up probably yesterday. It doesn't exist anymore. In fact, the closest Quiznos to me is 6.5 hours away in Montreal, Canada. So it's like, I'd love to have a Baja chicken, but not enough to buy a passport and then drive to another country, because it might not even be good. Then I'd really be disappointed that I spent all that effort to get a Baja chicken that was like cold and the bread was overcooked or something. With the sun setting so early, I get out of work a couple days a week after 6 o'clock, so it's pitch black out. I was driving home. I did kind of a long way because the weather was nice, but it was dark. And driving on this main road on Cape Cod, Route 28, it goes along kind of the southern coast of Cape Cod. I rarely, if ever, see animals at night crossing. This is not like a rural road where you might see things like deer or skunks or coyotes or raccoons or anything. But there's one area of Route 28 in Dennis, next town over from me. It's got some winding curves to it. And luckily, I wasn't driving fast because I was kind of thinking of where I wanted to go to get something for dinner. So I'm driving slow, which paid off because coming around one of these winding curves, I didn't see an animal, but I saw something even scarier, and that was a woman standing in the road. And she was barely visible. She was near the center double yellow lines. And I freaked because you come around the corner and there's just someone standing there. And I swerved. Luckily, there's a shoulder to the road, so I could go a little bit over the side and be all right. But she didn't even flinch. She stood there. So she's either on drugs or that's about it. And later on in the evening, in the next few days, I didn't see anything online about any accidents in that area. So I'm hoping that no one else hit her because that was terrible. Coming around the corner, and there's just, you know, it proved that my heart still works. Speaking of having my heart still work, I said I went to grab one of these before I karate chopped my finger in the fridge. So let's have one. This will, ooh, so worth it. Hold on. Ah, very nice. Slow mo. So you know what just happened? This stupid thing, I threw it and I did kind of slow mo. What happened is when it dropped, it landed on the little mouse touchpad and it stopped this video. And I had to restart over again. God, piece of crap. Boo. So this is like, I had to splice that together. It literally just ended the video. I was like, you kidding me? Oh, man, now you really got to sponsor me 5 hour. Your product shuts down my podcast like that. Oh man, let's try to regroup here. That was just insanity for a moment. An interesting phenomenon that I've seen in the last week or so on my Facebook Messenger is people I have no idea who they are showing up at the top as the chat as people that are online. If you do it on the mobile Facebook Messenger app, it'll have at the top, people that are online. I started noticing names. I said, I don't know who this is. And I thought maybe it was a glitch. So after a couple of days, I finally clicked on one of the names and it brought me to our last conversation. All of these people, several, 5, 6 different ones I found, were single conversations I had with people 7, 8, 9 years ago. Most of them asking for information for books I was writing about old Cape Cod restaurants and such. It was like, how in the world did these people get priority over actual friends and family that there is a paper trail of me being in contact with? That was just randos that I'm like, hey, do you know about this restaurant from 2016? And then there's no other conversation. But yet, if they're online, it's like, it's so important. You got to talk to them again. What am I going to say? Remember me? I asked you about a restaurant 9 years ago. Not that important. A few weeks ago, I talked about on this actual Webcam Weekly Wrap Up the phenomenon of having yellow jackets all over the hood of my car when I get out of work in the afternoon when the sun was still out. I swear it's the trees blowing either pollen or something else onto my car, and the bees are like, ooh, it's a buffet, and they come swooping down. So this past week, it was warm. And I went one of the days after work that I got out early onto the bike trail in Harwich. That's 2 towns over, for those of you that don't know Cape Cod. When I got back to my car, what I saw was not yellow jackets. It was something later identified by my phone as a bald faced hornet. And it was crawling, as you can see, just up the side of my hood, up my door. It was a chill insect. It was over an inch long, big thing, like 3 yellow jackets in a hornet costume. But I filmed this video. I took a cool up close picture of it. Then I walked around to my passenger side of the car, opened the door, and put on my long sleeve shirt after the run, had some water, and uploaded this video. I come back around to the other side, and that Hornet is gone. And I'm kind of looking around, and then I notice the fact that I had had all my windows open an inch or two because it was nice weather. So immediately my mind goes to, oh no, he crawled up the door and now he's in the car. So I'm there in this parking lot looking around to make sure it wasn't in the back window or something. I didn't see it and I was satisfied, but I'm not going to lie, my whole ride home, I was thinking that this thing was going to ambush me and I was going to end up swerving off the road and just flipping into a ditch. And then it's like, you won't find the Hornet. So people will just see me and be like, oh, he was just driving normal and he decided to kill himself flipping off the road. And it's like, nobody will know my real story of the Hornet that attacked me. Ugh. Oh man, so this this is another funny one. I try to make these funny, and these are all true. When every week I've got several stories that are just like, what in the world? It's all real, which is why I started doing this video podcast. So this other day, I was driving to work and I could see the sunrise was going to be good. I was like, okay, I know where I can go. Place called Cold Storage Beach. I go there quite a bit for sunrise, sunset. I get out of the car, you park, you walk a few 100 feet to the edge of the dunes. There's a beautiful view. This is the beach. If you've watched these previous podcasts where I found the sea turtles back to back, I think it was back to back days or back to back weeks. Big old sea turtles dead. Ugh. Nothing like that this time. So I took my pictures, video. It's like, oh, this is great, relaxing, enjoying it. Then I look at the time on the phone and I'm like, oh man, I got to get to work. So I'm hustling back to my car, driving, going down the road pretty fast. Hey, there's no proof, but very fast to get to work. So there's a curve on one of the roads, and then you take this slight left to go a more rural back road to come in the back way to my work. This area is notorious in a good way for wildlife. I've seen loads of rabbits and foxes and coyotes, but also deer. And so I'm flying down this road still a little slower, but not that much. And up ahead, it's like this majestic scene unfolding with a deer slowly walking out from some reeds at a marshy area. And it's like you could hear the beautiful classical music playing. And it's like a cartoon because the deer sees me flying down the road and it's like it dives back into the reeds to get out of the way. And it's like I slowed down because at first I was like, should I go back and try to get a picture? But that thing was long gone. It came out to breathe in the air, and here comes me, maniac in my car. So, another good thing about getting old, besides random pulled muscles and cramps and such, is the pulled muscle and cramp in your sleep. So, this morning, I had a calf cramp. It was like someone, like I'm asleep and just enjoying this dream, and my calf decides now I'm going to explode. This was like 5 a.m. So my calf is just, it still hurts. And I'm like, oh my God, I had to like wake up and massage it to loosen it up. By that point, I'm like, well, it hurts and I might as well just get up, which is good for a relative off day. 5:30 getting up. Like, oh man. Does anyone else have that like cramp Charlie horse in your sleep that wakes you up? My calf one, that's not that often. Once every 6 months, maybe. But I don't know if I dream that I'm weightlifting or I'm running and my calves are like, yeah, let's go. And then it's end of the road. But that's not as bad as years ago when I worked in restaurants. I had bad carpal tunnel syndrome in my right hand from holding knives all the time. your muscles shorten up so that if you extend them, you get like your hand will fall asleep. Anyway, I used to have it really bad. And what would happen is I'd be asleep, my hand would naturally just curl into a fist because I was either thinking about holding a knife or cursing my my existence. But what would happen is I would open my hand up and all the feeling would come back. It'd be the pins and needles feeling, and it would wake me up. And this would happen all the time, several times a day or night. What I would do was eventually I started sleeping on my stomach with my right arm hanging off the bed. And if that didn't work, I would wear a freaking winter glove so that my hand couldn't curl. So just imagine that. My carpal tunnel was so bad that I would sleep with one glove on my hand like I was Michael Jackson dreaming of that. But that's how bad it was. If this closed and it went numb and then, it was the worst. I just think about that all the time. That was normal for me. I'm like, well, this is just what I got to do was sleep with a glove on. And while we're at it, so there was this one time, this story is going off the rails quick. I used to I like sleeping on my back, but every now and then, you roll onto your side. I would get hip pain because if you're laying on your side, your legs aren't even. So one leg hangs over the other. So I would get sometimes hip pain. So one time I was probably in my early 20s. I had this bright idea to sleep with ankle weights on so that I couldn't roll onto my side because the weights would hold me in place. And I only did this once because what happened was I put on these, they were 10 pounds on each ankle, and I didn't roll over. But because I didn't move at all night, I woke up with not quite like bed sores, but if you just sit in place, any one place for 8 hours straight, you're going to end up with something going on. So I slept with ankle weights on and I ended up with like minor bed sores from not being able to move around. Oh my goodness gracious. The things that happen or the things that I let happen. So as I was saying about the calf, going all the way back to that, tonight from when I record this, I am going with my buddy Steve to help pull a aluminum dock out of a lake. It's only 15 minutes from us. We do it in the spring and the fall. It's easy money and it's not that bad. I mean, Steve's the one that goes in the water, so it's probably worse for him. At least it's nice today. But anyway, I am wondering, there's a bunch of steps to get down to the lake. And with this calf being less than enthused about moving, if I'm carrying part of this dock up the stairs, I'm wondering, do I end up going down and dropping the dock and then Steve and the man that owns the house with his wife, do they go down? But oh man. And I wanted to end this one off. This is something today that I'm recording this on the Friday. It's the birthday of my old prep boy tag partner and friend Liam. We worked together at the Marshside restaurant 30 years ago. So I made him a birthday card with all of these very specific things to our restaurant working experience. And there's a lot of videos. I used to bring my camcorder into work, not often, but do some videos that I'm so glad I have now, not with the hair that I had back then, but it's a great snapshot of time. And at the time when I had this camcorder, there'd be some people that would be kind of like, why are you filming this or that? And now looking back, I'm so glad. I wish I had recorded more, but sharing that card that I made on Canva with him, I wanted to wish him a happy birthday, but also share the photo of it and a little bit of our experiences at the marsh side because it was fun. It was a different world. The prep room was across the parking lot from the main restaurant. So we were kind of on our own, 15, 16 years old. Yeah, it was a lot of good times. We'd get frustrated back then, though, when the bosses would have front and back white line paper of prep list for us. And we'd be like, we have to work at our job. But looking back now, it was a lot of fun. All the different stories we have. I mean, just look at the card with all those very specific memories. Everything. It's all inside jokes. I mean, the products, some of you, if you worked in restaurants in the 90s, would remember, but very specific. And so it was a fun thing to put together, fun memories. And so I wanted to end off with that. So that wraps up the main look at the week that was. For the full blog, check out the In My Footsteps podcast blog, Initial Impressions 2.0. I put them up. I try Sunday, Monday, and then this podcast goes up on Mondays. I usually have a clip from it on Tuesdays. It'll probably be me talking about sleeping with ankle weights on because it doesn't sound like it could be real, but it's like, no, it's real. If you enjoy my content, the video podcast, the audio podcast, if you didn't know I have an audio podcast, go and check that out. It's got a new logo for November. It just passed 4 years of doing this show. 171 episodes. Well, not all are out yet. I just recorded episode 171 probably an hour ago. And then I come and jump into this, which is why by the time I get to the end of this show, I'm punch drunk. It's like a full day of work. I'm looking at my phone here. So I've been doing content work today for roughly 4 hours, and I'll probably do another 2 or 3 after this before I go meet Steve to tear my knee out grabbing the dock. But if you enjoy my content and you want to become a Patreon subscriber, $5 a month gets you bonus podcast episodes, early access to YouTube videos. I've got more on the free tier, including a long form short story, What I Learned in My 40s So Far. That's also going up on the regular blog in chunks because there's 6 different lessons that I've learned. So it'll be there in manageable bite-sized pieces because the full blog is like 8,000 words and I don't want people to start reading a little and get bored. If you're not into monthly subscriptions to Patreon, you can buy me a coffee. Those are more one-time things, but supporting content creators, that's even if you don't become a paying member, you don't have to do that. Sharing my work, that's the most important thing. Getting other people's eyes on this, because I'm so grateful to all of you that have found my work wherever you're watching or if you listen to the main show. But you need to grow your audience, otherwise you become stagnant. I love doing this, but you need to see growth to justify. Like I said, I'll be doing 6 to 7 hours of content work today and probably another 7 to 8 this weekend, maybe more. That's on top of having a regular day job, but I digress. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the Webcam Weekly Wrap-Up number 8. I hope you've enjoyed the wacky and true stories from my life. Every week I'm like, how am I going to top that one? And then something happens and I'm like, that's going right in the blog, right on the podcast. So check out all the rest of the content. If you're interested in any of my 9 books, yes, I am an author as well. Visit my website, ChristopherSetterland.com. And that's it. I will be back next week for the 9th Webcam Weekly Wrap-Up with stories of removing the dock with Steve and probably other insanity I'm not even thinking of yet. But until then, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.